Here we go. Come on, Shane. You did not disappoint. I knew it was going to be a good groovy evening. Do me a favor, good people. Put your favorite emoji in the chat. Let me know how we are feeling this evening. I am super, super excited to be able to engage my people. To be able to engage my people a little bit different. To engage them this evening, because mostly a lot of you all rock with me in the mornings on Instagram Live, 7 a.m. Eastern on Wednesdays and Fridays, and I appreciate that. Appreciate you showing up then. But I said, hey, some people might not be able to get up in the morning, or they're trying to, stay off of social media. They don't want to be bothered. So I say, something? Let's do something in the evenings and see what happens. So if the people like it in the evening, we're going to be here. So, and the only way we grow the evening, I need you all to do me a favor and tell somebody. All right. I know it's going to get a little bit lighter outside, but once a month in the evening, you can hit me with the, like Shane said, good, groovy evening. That's all I'm saying. Good, groovy evening. So as we are here, good people, we are going to talk about, I think, a different angle as it relates to self-talk. Just a different angle. And as we are coming in here, before we get started, I do this in the morning, so I'm going to do it in the evening too. I'm not going to speed past it. We got 3 things that we talk about on Get Over the Hump in the mornings, and I think it actually helps us to figure out where our perspective is, where our mindset is, and how we see the world. So let me go back and let me start here. Let me go grab these. So we got the first kind of mindset that says, hey, I'm a classic. And simply saying I'm a classic means that, I'm no longer explaining myself to people who insist on seeing me through their own lens. I don't have time for that. That's toxic. I'm going to keep it pushing. So that's I'm a classic. We got the next one that says my dopeness doesn't expire. Yeah. So when we talk about my dopeness doesn't expire, that what it is that I have, I can sit and be present because I'm going to arrive on time, set to get there in time to impact the people I'm supposed to at the right time. But then we got last, but definitely not least, we got let me do it right. I'm built for this. I'm built for this simply says, you know something? What's in front of me doesn't stand a chance, because what was meant to kill me gave me life. What was meant to destroy me developed me. So what's in front of me doesn't stand a chance. I'm built for this. So let me see where my people at. I see you. I'm built for this, Shane. I see you. We talked about that, man. Yes, you are. Come on, coach. I see you. My dopeness doesn't expire. No, we're going to be present. We're going to stop tripping and stop letting people rush us because we believe that God is in time and on time. So guess what? Since I'm his kid, I'm the same. Let's go for it. All right. So as we are rocking here and people are putting those responses in the chat, let's get to it. And I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about a different angle when we talk about self-talk. And when we talk about self-talk, a lot of times, what do we say to ourselves? And how do we make these things happen and everything else? And all that stuff is true. But somewhere as we start thinking through some of the things that we start to navigate, that our self-talk begins to be connected. What I'm going to tell you first, it starts with a dream. Now you're going, why does it start with a dream? Well, because see, many of us are in a space right now in our lives where we believe that there is something greater than the moment that we're currently in. That even though I've gotten here and I'm grateful, there still is more. Regardless of what phase of my life that I'm in, I believe that there's more. And the more you begin to start thinking through these possibilities, the more you begin to start thinking through what could happen, what might happen, what might be from an aspirational perspective, you begin to get excited. You begin to start seeing that there's something a little bit more, and it starts to take your focus. And what we understand is what we begin to focus on is what gets stronger. That begins to now, as it begins to be the focus, now as it begins to become your focus, the dream, the vision of something greater than where you currently are, what it does now, it gives you the ability that dream now becomes the focus, and the focus now becomes the conversation. How is this possible? Wouldn't it be nice if it did? I can't believe this. I actually thought that. Man, is that? And all of a sudden, that energy starts changing, where now we start waking up, seeing things a little bit different. We start getting up with a little bit more energy on our side, because we can see that this is possible. So when we talk about this self-talk piece, I'm going to ask you all, do we have, whatever phase that you are in your life right now, do you have a dream? Do you have something that you believe is greater than this current moment? Do you see yourself someplace that is bigger than where you currently are? And that doesn't mean that you're not grateful. That doesn't mean that you're not content with what it is that you have. But it's something that's been whispering. It's something that's been echoing that just won't let you just go to sleep, just won't let you ignore it. And you're saying, there is more. And as you begin to start seeing that there is more, you start to begin to focus on that. And now that drowns out all the other noise, because something greater than this moment, something greater than me, now becomes my focus. Now becomes the conversation becomes, how then do I make happen what it is that I have yet to see happen? Okay, do me a favor. If I'm doing all right, I see some fires and some ladders in the chat. Y'all telling me I'm doing all right. I'm just trying to make sure that we start in the right spot. That if we're going to start shaping what we say to ourselves, this angle of it, it starts with a dream. All right. The next thing that it starts with, if we now have the dream, and the dream that we starting to figure out ways to figure out how to make it happen, the next thing is you got to have hope and belief. That the dream is going to be what may ignite it, but the hope is the hope and the belief is what fuels it. Why is that? Because now the hope and the belief now starts to tell you how it's possible, when it's going to be possible. And though you may have seen some things where in your mind you're going, where other people saw problems, you begin to see possibilities. Where other people saw roadblocks, you saw an opportunity to get better and to get stronger. When everybody else saw something that was going to be in the way, you saw a way to be able to get around it. That's because now we focused on the dream, and now there's so many of what ifs and what could be and how could this be possible that now we're fueling that dream with hope and belief. We're fueling that dream now with hope and belief that now changes and transforms our language. It's not about if, it's only about when. Yep, it didn't happen today, but I'm closer today than I was yesterday. And we begin to see this thing a little bit different because hope is fueling our behavior. Hope is fueling our thought process. Hope now being connected to the dream now allows for it to take up the space in our minds, our spirits, our hearts, and our souls. Well, it does not give us the ability to allow for the negative things to come in. Why? Because we're focused on a dream that's now been fueled by hope and belief. When we talk about this hope, it is as if something greater than the moment. If we go biblical, we know that faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So what are we hoping for? Because in that hope, it pushes us to begin to change our language. It pushes us to begin to change how we think. And when we begin to change our language and we change how we think, then we begin to change what we see. And you're starting to see this continuum where it starts with a vision I once saw, the dream, now fueled with hope and belief, that we now fuel it and start barricading or bulletproofing the dream, only for now for what we once thought was aspirational, we now know it's going to happen. So when we talk about this self-talk, I didn't want to just talk about the simple angle of what you say to yourself, don't be negative, everything else. And you can pull all those weeds out. But the question is, what are we putting in? So the first thing I want to make sure that we're putting in is we started with the dream. And when we can start it with the dream, it ignites us on a different path that gives us the ability now with the next thing is to surround it or to fuel it with hope and belief. It's just hope and belief. Because then when we begin to surround this with hope and belief, now all of a sudden it creates an ownership of the dream. See, you can begin to focus on it and you can kind of say, oh, that's good for CJ. Oh, that's good for Shane. Oh, that's good for Nikki. I see that might be good for them. But when you begin to personalize it with hope and belief and surround yourself with this attitude and this excitement and this expectation that what I see in my mind will ultimately become what it is that I see in my life, Now, all of a sudden, that ownership happens. And what we've talked about over the last week or so, you begin to raise your hand and say, that's me. I see where I fit. I see where I belong. I see where I can make these things happen. Because now we go from something in the distance that we've brought this thing close, we brought it closer to us. And because now it's closer to us, the hope and the belief surrounds it, now drives the actions for us to be able to move forward. I want to just pause and just do me a favor. I saw somebody already did it. Put hope in the chat. Yep, I got hope. I got hope. That regardless of what phase, regardless of what time, regardless of where we've been, I have hope. Hope that this can be better. Hope that tomorrow's going to be better. Hope that I'm going to figure this next piece out. Hope that I'm a lot closer to where it is. Hope. I have hope. And when we have hope, we wake up different. When we have hope, we get more excited. When we have hope, we believe that this can be what it is that we desire, because we're now moving from a familiar space to an unfamiliar space, and we'll bridge that gap with hope and belief, because now that drives our actions. I have hope. So in the last piece, when we go from starting with the dream, and then we shift ourselves into now bringing it personal with hope and belief, we then take ourselves to the last piece where we have to now have sacrifice. So if it's going to be powered or fueled by hope and belief, it will come to completion by sacrifice. Now, the question I want to ask anybody is that any belief that you've had, any dream that you've had, anything that was greater than the moment, if we're going to be honest, it did not happen without sacrifice. It did not happen without us being a little uncomfortable. And depending on how big the dream is, you might have to be a lot of uncomfortable. There is an expectation I know for you mothers that are on the call, that when you were, expecting to be a mom, that there was a sacrifice that you all gave up of your bodies to allow for a child to come into the world. And until that process was over, it was not going to be complete until you had fully finished that sacrifice. And part of the conundrum or the issue that some of us have today, regardless of whether or what phase we are in our lives, we feel like we've sacrificed enough. We feel like we've done enough, so it's somebody else's time. We feel like we've gotten that out the way. I can just sit back and be okay. But the issue you're having is that the dream continues to whisper. It continues to be background noise that agitates. It's continuing to say that there's more. It's continuing to tell you that you got a chance to do something different. And now because you can't ignore it, and now you believe and you're making it personal that it's possible, we're now at the point, what do I do? You're going to have to sacrifice. Some of you all might be in a space where you're seeing yourself in a different financial picture. Well, in order to get to that different financial picture that does not look like currently where you are, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. Maybe you want to put yourself in a better health position because you want to be able to do things a little bit different. You want this year to be that year. Where you're going to have to do what? Sacrifice. That means the things that you like to eat as much, you might not be able to eat as much of that. The time that you might want to sit back and watch certain shows, you might have to get up and go work out for that. You're going to have to do something different because your actions will show what you believe. That if we're going to fuel the dream with hope and belief, then our actions of sacrifice are supposed to follow next. So the question is, what are your actions showing? Are they showing that I believe that this is possible? Or are your actions showing that I'm not sure that this can happen for me? What are your actions showing? Are your actions showing that I don't care what it looks like, I'm in motion and I'm closer than I ever have been? Or do your actions show I got to wait for things to be perfect because I don't want anybody to say anything different? What are your actions showing? Are you willing to make the sacrifice of your ego to actually achieve what it is that you're trying to get done? That's the question we have to ask ourselves, because when we get to the point that we have to get into action, where now sacrifice is required for us to fulfill what's been bugging us, what's been driving us, what's been connecting our spirit and our hearts and our minds to our focus. The question we got to ask is, now what do we need to sacrifice? And are we willing to sacrifice public opinion in the short term for them to believe that you're a genius in the long term? Are we willing to sacrifice some discomfort of what people say in the short term for them to say, I always knew you would do it in the long term? Because see, the sacrifice that you're willing to make now will be the answer to someone's prayer later, because the dream that won't let you just sit still and won't just let you let it go is actually somebody bombarding heaven in their prayers. Somebody asking for an answer to this. And though you tried to wrestle away, like tossing and turning in the middle of the night, you just tried to get away from it. Even though you tried to get away from it, you can't get away from it, because you won't be everything that you're supposed to be until they have everything that they need. So the question you got to ask yourself is, do you believe that you're the answer? Do you have hope that you can actually fulfill it? And what sacrifice are you willing to make? Because the inspiration that you create, the answer to the need that you meet for those that are believing of something greater than their moment, will be the thing that outlasts anything that you can do if you're just looking to be selfish and to take care of me, mine, and ours. And sometimes the selfishness ain't even really that deep. It's just, I don't feel like listening to nobody else, nothing to say to me. Now, I'm just going to be honest. I'm from Detroit. I don't make that no secret. And sometimes that come out. Sometimes you just don't want to be bothered. Don't say nothing to me. Don't talk to me. Don't look to me. I don't want to hear no scriptures. I don't want to do nothing. Just leave me alone. But there's a season for that. And some of us are out that season because you're in this space where being agitated actually isn't coming externally. It's actually coming on the inside. There is more for me to do. There's more. So I'm a pause. I'm got myself all worked up and everything else. If this is okay, if I'm doing all right, you can put some fire, some ladders in the chat. Let me know your favorite emoji. I'm gonna read some of these comments. Shane, you funny. Oh, that's funny. That was good. That's good. But each of us as individuals, we have to ask ourselves a question. What's driving us? And just for a quick review, we're going to go back and talk about the dream. If you don't see anything greater than the moment that you're currently in, there is something that's telling you that this is it. And I just want to speak to that. If there's nothing you see greater than the moment that you're in, and it's telling you that this is it, that's a lie. I'm just going to tell you that. Because the fact that you got up this morning, the fact that you actually have activities of your limbs, you're in your right mind, that you could actually click on and join me this evening, lets me know that there's something more than what you've been doing. It may look different in this season of your life. It may feel different in this season of your life. But you have to be willing to answer the call in hope and in belief that you can. In hope and belief that it will and it can happen. Because when you do that, now we shift ourselves to what sacrifice is necessary. If we look at our calendars, and we look at our behavior, we look at our activity, the question is it filled with activity and behavior that's sacrificial? Or is it filled with behavior and activity that's allowing for us to be comfortable? That's where I want us to start thinking through, because when we start with the dream, we fuel it with belief, we fuel it with hope, and we then execute or drive it with sacrifice. Now it begins to consume our thoughts. Now it becomes the thing, I can do it. I know I'm gonna do it. I know that I will do it. And here's how it's gonna happen. Well, I don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, but I'm gonna do what's in front of me today. And when I figure out today, then I'll be ready for tomorrow. That's how these things happen. That's how we walk ourselves through it. We want to have a new headspace, then what you potentially are going to be doing. If the dream is possible, it's fueled with hope and belief. Guess what? Now we spend our time in sacrifice and researching and networking. Maybe it's investing in a different conference. Maybe it's getting around a group of different people. Maybe it's being transparent with the ones that you trust. But everything, your belief is magnified by your actions, and your actions to create or to close the gap between what you see here and what you want to ultimately live in is going to take sacrifice. It's not going to take perfection. It's not going to take everything being right. It's going to take sacrifice. So here's what I want us to think through. And if there's any questions, do me a favor, y'all can put them in the chat and I'll get to them. But the one thing I want us to just ask as we shift out of this segment, and I'm going to talk about some stuff here in a second, and we're going to get you out of here, is somebody just put in the chat, what's driving you? So is the dream that you have bigger than the current moment that you're in? If it's bigger than the current moment that you're in, then the next thing I want you to ask yourself is, am I surrounding my dream, my vision, with hope and belief? If I got something that's bigger than the moment that I'm in, bigger than the life that I'm currently living, am I surrounding that with hope and belief? And then what am I willing to sacrifice for it right now? What am I willing to sacrifice for it right now? That's it. That's the reflection I want you to take away from tonight. It's that self-talk. I want to come from a different angle. It's for it to not just be about what we say or what we remove from a negative perspective, but now it's about what we place in. And what we place into that space that we remove the negative has to be a dream. And the dream could be simple. I'm healed, I'm healthy, and I'm whole. And that might be something you've never had happen in your life before. I'm healed, I'm healthy, and I'm whole. And you begin to start thinking about what being healed, healthy, and whole looks like. How the conversation changes. How your interactions and your relationships change. How my life feels different because I'm healed, healthy, and whole. So then now, because we begin with belief and hope and we can see it, now we're willing to sacrifice. Yep, the things that I normally would do, I would really get at somebody on this one. I would allow for my trauma trigger to let me get at somebody. I would allow for maybe to attach me to some toxic relationships. But because I'm moving through being healed, healthy, and whole, I got new tools that I'm using. I got new relationships that surrounded to encourage me to make it happen. Now it's not about if I get the chance to walk in that wholeness, that healing, and that healthiness. It's just about when. I'm healed, I'm healthy, and I'm whole. Just an example of what a dream looks like. Is that what's driving you right now? Are we surrounding it with hope and belief? And last, are we willing to make the sacrifice right now to get to the vision of our mind so it can ultimately become the reality of our lives? All right. So let's shift this conversation. I'm gonna shift this conversation. And before I shift the conversation, do me a favor, put in the chat, tell me what y'all took away from this, because I feel like I'm moving fast. Shane, I love you. She say everything. I love Shane. But yeah, which I took. Oh, I'm sorry. And she's on here. Shout out to Shakara. Happy birthday, ma'am. I didn't forget. I just want to, hey, do me a favor. Y'all put happy birthday in the chat for Shakara. She is stretching herself consistently, sacrificing the uncomfortability of her emotions to put herself out there as the neighborhood entertainer. I like that. We're going to take that to the global entertainer between the jokes, the podcast, the singing, the tiny desk. Ma'am, I'm just saying, I'm watching you. And you are to be celebrated. And I want to say happy birthday and have everybody else say happy birthday to you as well, ma'am. Let today be your national holiday. And I hope you went crazy a little bit today. And if you're like some people I know, you probably been celebrating your birthday all month. I'm not mad. Listen, it's yours. Celebrate. So as I'm going through, we wishing Shakara happy birthday. Let me go see anything y'all telling me we took away from tonight. I see we got a processing crowd, so I'm gonna let y'all process. Gonna push y'all, but we're gonna get y'all out of here. So I'm gonna use one of Nikki's tactics online. I love it. Do me a favor, put a 1 in the chat if you are subscribed to the newsletter. Just put a 1 in the chat. I just want to see what my people at. Put a 1 in the chat if you get the newsletter every Monday at 8 a.m. Eastern coming straight to your inbox. I just want to see where the people are. Okay, I see some 1s popping up. Some people might be driving. Don't you do nothing reckless. I need y'all to be safe. You know, I'm just going to trust. All right. If you are not subscribed to the newsletter, Isha, do me a favor. Go ahead and put the link in the chat for those who need to subscribe to the newsletter. It is meant to be a 2 to 4 minute read for information like this, whether it's in the evening or on Wednesday and Fridays at 7 a.m. Eastern, to come straight to your inbox for you to have the ability to be able to have it, take notes, be able to reflect on it in your prayer time, your journal time, to be able to reflect on your personal time, to be able to do that. So that's what I wanted to be able to set that up for. For those who might be up online, listen, we're back at it again at 7 a.m. Eastern on Instagram Live. Ask Aaron Victor is the handle. We are there. Get over the hump every Wednesday and Friday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern. Super, super excited about that group. They keep me encouraged. The greatest thing about that, even though Instagram wanted to hate on us yesterday, the greatest thing about us getting online at 7 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday and Friday is the fact of that chat. The encouragement goes crazy in the chat. It is absolutely amazing. I appreciate that. All right, next thing, let me check the audience. If this was beneficial and you want me to do it again next month, put a 2 in the chat. You know, you said the evening was good. I don't know about all that other stuff, but the evening was good. If this was good, put a 2 in the chat. Let me see. All right, good people. I appreciate y'all and your encouragement. So as these 2s are coming through, bless your hearts and your encouragement. Isha's going to put the link in the chat for the April the 11th. April the 11th. You know, I'm trying to make sure that we do this once a month. And so my schedule's a little crazy that I can't make it. It's the 4th Thursday or it's the 3rd Thursday. I'm not going to do that. I will announce the day. I will announce the time. And so right now, if you want to go ahead and hold your spot so it's on your calendar, and you're starting to get the emails and everything else, just go ahead and hold your spot. April the 11th, we are going to do another one of these in the evening. April the 11th, we're going to do another one of these. All right? So I want to do that. All right. Now, appreciate you, Wayne. I appreciate that, sir. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Shane, you funny. All right. Now, those who are either on Get Over the Hump or Wednesdays and Fridays, or you're part of the newsletter, you have heard about at some point this event that we're doing October the 4th and the 5th in Washington, D.C. If you have heard about this event, use Nikki's favorite number. Put number 3 in the chat. Put 3 in the chat if you have heard about this event that's coming to D.C. on October the 4th and the 5th. If you have heard about this event, okay, I see some people have heard about it, and I want to be able to give you some additional information tonight. Super, super excited. A little nervous, but here we go. We get ready. I'm going to share my screen here in a second, but I want to talk this thing through for the time that we have remaining. I want to talk this through a little bit on what October the 4th and the 5th is going to be. People that say, Aaron, what is it going to feel like? Is this like a conference? And is it going to be this? And, you know, yes, right? Things that you can think of, yes. And I will say, I am honored that I have a group of people who have been willing to sacrifice themselves for my dream and my vision for us to create an experience that I believe is going to be like none other. All right? It's going to be like none other. All right, so let me share my screen and let's talk through what is going to happen on October the 4th and the 5th. So this visual here, it represents a time of the day. They call it the golden hour. And through conversations, through coaching, through the different things, I believe that we're in a golden hour right now of humanity, of our country, and of you, and each of you as individuals. Now, what does that golden hour represent? The golden hour represents, whether it's in the morning, it is the dawning of a new moment, a dawning of a new day with hope and possibilities. In the evening, it's now the setting of an old moment in anticipation of a new moment. If you look at the golden hour in other spaces outside of the climate or our days, they talk about the golden hour at the time when mothers have children. That first 60 minutes when the child is born, it is so important or critical for the mother and the child, the newborn, to bond. Critical for that relationship to start within the first 60 minutes. And for some of you all right now, there's something that that's been messing with you. That echo that you've been trying to put earplugs in. You've been trying to outperform it. You've been trying to sacrifice through it, through other people. Maybe you got some vices that you're not real proud about that you've been trying to work through to get away from it. But the golden hour has now come up in people's lives in which they are in a critical space that for me to be everything that God had created me to be, I need to act now. But being able to act now in some aspects means that I need to get around a different group of people. So when we talk about what happens next is through this moment, we're calling the gathering, October the 4th and the 5th, VROS. Yep, we're calling it VROS. Now the question you're asking is, why VROS? VROS, when doing research when it comes to ancient times, Greek, is an indication of the victorious, is a word for the victorious, is a word for the heroes, is a word for the guardians. And so I believe that this was now a moment for those who believe that they're in a critical space in their lives to gather the heroes, to gather the victors, to gather the guardians together in one place. That as this golden hour moment is happening, as we are looking on the setting of one season and the rising of another, and we're standing in the beauty of that light that doesn't need anything artificial, but the excitement of the possibilities that are coming, it's time for us to gather. Yes, that group. Those who are looking for something more. Those that know that it's time to do something different. Those that know that this is the moment that they've been waiting for, though it showed up in a space that they weren't prepared for. That is the group. That is October the 4th and the 5th. It's VROS. So now what are we talking about with VROS? It is simple as this, that your dreams are meant to live. They're meant to live. And when you talk about your dreams being meant to live, that means they're meant to be lived now, and they're meant to live when you're gone. Because some of you may have heard this saying where it says that the richest or the wealthiest place on the planet is the cemetery. It says it's the wealthiest place is the cemetery. It's because there goes unfulfilled dreams, unfulfilled inventions, unfulfilled albums and records and movies, all these ideas that went unfulfilled because we got caught up in living for something that was only going to be for the moment, that was only going to be temporary. So the whole focus, that 2-day time period, October the 4th and the 5th in Washington, D.C., is for us to help us understand that what we may have buried we can dust off, we can dig up, because your dreams are meant to live. What do we mean that your dreams are meant to live? I talked about this for a second. Beyond the grave, beyond this moment. It is one of the other sayings some of you all may have heard is that to plant a tree in the shade, you will never sit. And when you think about that, the time that it takes for a tree to grow, that it takes vision. It takes hope and belief that through nurturing, through fertilizing, through watering, that it's going to grow up to be what it needs to be. And you make the sacrifice in your time through that nurturing of that tree, knowing that you'll never get a chance to benefit from what it becomes. Yep, that dream that lives beyond your life, that lives beyond the grave, that allows for you to be introduced to generations that you'll never meet, to be introduced to people who will thank you, though you will never be able to hear it audibly. That's why your dreams are meant to live beyond the grave. And then last but definitely not least, this is where we're coming together as a group. Your dreams are meant to live. It's VROS. Live and leave a dream. That is what we're doing October the 4th and the 5th. We are curating an amazing experience for those who say that this golden hour of my life, this dawning of a new moment, this setting of an old one, this is critical for me. I don't know why I have this pressure on me right now that feels like I got to do something different now. Is because you feel that the golden hour is here. And because the golden hour is here, you know the time is now. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, come back to you all. How do we feel about this? You know, I just want to see what's your feedback. You know, how do we feel about what we just heard, about how we have this opportunity to be able to gather together and to allow for us to go from what we thought was possible and walking out transformed, knowing that it's possible. That's VROS. That is where we're going. The gathering of the victors, the guardians, the heroes. So if you are not on the wait list, Isha, go ahead and put the link down there for me. If you are not on the wait list, please go ahead and join the wait list, because all the information, pricing, all that stuff is getting ready to happen. That will happen to that group first before anybody else finds out about it. Spaces will be limited to let you all behind the scenes. I'm getting ready to go take a site visit in a couple of weeks to kind of pull some of the final things together so we can be ready to go and to have an amazing, transformative time in DC, October the 4th, the 5th. It's going to be a culmination. It's going to be one part kind of book release. I'm working on a new book, one part conference, and one part kind of banquet party. So we're going to bring it all together. And I'm excited about this moment that we're going to work hard, but we're going to play hard together, because fulfilling your destiny, fulfilling your purpose, living and leaving a dream doesn't have to be arduous. It can be fun in the process. So that's what we endeavor to do, and that's what we're excited about. So I appreciate y'all. Listen to me. I appreciate you all so much about jumping on tonight. I appreciate you all for being here. We will be back in the evening, 7 p.m. Eastern on April the 11th. Please tell a neighbor or a friend. Let's build this thing out. Let's get this thing to go crazy. Those who are not part of the newsletter, please join the newsletter. You can get stuff like this directly to your inbox so you can have it. And if you are not part of the wait list, and now that you're saying, I wasn't going to tell my friends, but now I heard you kind of roll it out, I'm going to tell my friends. Tell your friends to join the wait list so they can be a part of what we're getting ready to do. I got one piece that we working on pulling off that I'm not telling anybody about it. It's meant to be a surprise when we all get there. I'm super pumped about it because we pull this thing off. When we pull this thing off, it is going to be something that you will absolutely never forget. So let me say this. I love you all. I appreciate each and every one of you making the sacrifice of your time to come hang out and join us this evening. So I'm going to say this as I say all the time. Listen, as we talked about tonight with self-talk, knowing that it first starts with the dream, that is then fueled by your hope and your belief, and it will only be fulfilled with consistent sacrifice. As you're figuring out what drives you, you're wrapping your new words around bulletproofing that dream, and you're figuring out what you can do right now, I need you to do me a favor. Extend yourself some grace. And I want you to extend yourself some grace and navigate with this understanding that just because you started out on this journey to get better, it doesn't mean that you weren't already good. So whether it's tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. Eastern or April the 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'll see you then.